tuning in to another fun episode with your favorite Mouska moms. Lori, that's me, Jennifer.
Hello.
And Juliana.
Holla.
If you've been paying attention to anything Disney, you will surely have heard about Disney's Fast Pass system has officially been retired. And what they're putting in replace of it is Disney Genie. Today we're going to talk about the breakdown of Disney Genie for what we know currently right now, and exactly what that means for your next Disney adventure. But of course, first we have to do the Mouska cocktail.
Yes. So, we can't talk about anything this complicated unless we're drinking. And this does make us want to drink because I feel like with all the answers they've given us 12,000 questions. Yeah. So let's get a good drink on our table right now. So because we're talking about the Disney Genie and magic and all that today, for today's cocktail, we're going to revisit the ultimate venue for magic and mystery. We've talked about this one before. It's, of course, the Abracadabar. The Abracadabar we've talked to you guys about before because it's a favorite of ours. It's located on Disney's boardwalk. It's full of magic and intrigue and fun. And because today the Mask Moms will be performing some feats of magic, unpacking the mystery of this Disney Genie Plus. We're going to give tribute with this lounge's signature drink called the Parlor Trick, because that's exactly what we're going to be doing today is a Parlor Trick. This drink is, of course, a fan favorite because the main ingredient is bourbon. It's a very simple drink. It's bourbon, simple syrup, and soda. So pour yourselves a glass and let's get cracking on this craziness.
I was going to say, I've still never been to that bar, and I'm very glad that we are staying at Boardwalk coming up because that's where I'm going.
I'm going to order it. I'm going to order a Parlor Trick without the simple syrup and soda.
So just bourbon. I mean, that's good too.
I'll take a martini, hold the vermouth.
Yeah, that's your own Parlor Trick. I'll have the Parlor Trick, hold everything but the bourbon.
Just give me the trick.
That's a good plan.
Good plan. I mean, maybe I'll take the ice. All right, so Disney Genie. Yikes, right? Okay. So I think I'm not going to tell you what I think. Let's talk about what Disney Genie is first.
Yes.
Yeah. I think. Okay, so Disney Genie is this new app, right? For Disney World that's supposed to help you plan your trip, plan your days, really. So let's clarify that right off the bat, right? Disney Genie is going to help you once you are at Disney when you're there. And if you don't have a good game plan, you need to know what to do. It's supposed to help you, right? You're supposed to go in there and pick your preferences and things like that. What else do you guys know about it so far? This is just the app available to everybody.
Yeah. So the app is basically going to be an extension to My Disney Experience. So if you're in My Disney Experience, obviously people are going in there right now for wait times for restaurant reservations and that. And this is going to be an extension to that. So it'll tell you what rides to kind of go on next based on your interests. And it'll show you, which shows are coming. I think what it's going to do, instead of having to hit 16 different buttons in My Disney Experience to see the show times, to see the wait times, to see this, it's going to kind of bring it all together. And I think the confusion part is, okay, so now we don't need to plan beforehand. And that's not true because you can have a game plan beforehand, but as we all know, some things change when you're there. So this is kind of an extension to help that, but you still need a game plan going in.
Well, you need to know what you want, right?
Yes.
You don't want to be opening this app morning of and being like, what does Magic Kingdom have to offer?
Yeah.
You need to know what you want before you go in that morning and plug it all in there.
And I think the important thing to know also with this is that language for Disney is very, very important. So I think people are confusing things. So in our conversation today, I think we need to clarify that Disney Genie is just what Lori said. It's the extension to your My Disney Experience. It's complimentary for everyone. This is the cool tool that you're going to be able to use. You're still going to want to do all of your pre-planning, your game planning with your travel agent. And then day of, the Disney Genie is going to be able to swoop in and kind of help modify things as things pop up. So let's say, your plan was to start with Adventureland, but your plan when you get there is your pre-plan was to start with Adventureland, but then your plan the day of when you get there are rides that are down in Adventureland. Disney Genie will be able to swoop in and revise your plan based on real-time things that are happening. So that's the Disney Genie. Complimentary, everybody's going to be able to use it. Disney Genie Plus and Lightning Lane, those are two different things. So we're going to break down all three of them for you. But right now we're talking about Disney Genie as an app extension on the My Disney experience.
And this is for everyone, like Jen said. And I, first of all, have to say, I love this because as a travel planner, I can get you to Disney and I can tell you everything that I think you should do. I can even tell you exactly what times I think that you should do something. But I love knowing that if something changes, which it does, or if you change your mind, which you might, you're in good hands with this app, right? If this app works and delivers as promised, which we don't know yet because it's not been released, it makes me feel so good. Like I know no matter what, things are going to be great, no matter how well I prepare you ahead of time. So I love this if it delivers as promised. So
I was going to say, I think we said in one of the lives, and the perfect way of describing it is, I've had so many people that, as a travel agent, I'm doing their itinerary and they're like, can you just come with? First, let me specify, yes, I will still come with. I don't care what the genie's doing. I will still come. But I think what this does is essentially, as a travel planner, we can help everybody out at the beginning, tell them what to do. But I can't control if, you walk into Magic Kingdom and you're like, oh my God, everyone's going left into Adventureland. We don't want to go left. We want to go right. So I think we're hoping that this Disney Genie is going to be essentially like having a travel planner on your shoulder while you're at the park.
Right. Right. Apparently the idea was that people wanted more flexibility and spontaneity, right? So I think it's great. Like I said, I think it's great because there's plenty of things that we need to come up with and plan ahead of time. So to have some spontaneity built into your trip like this is great. Thank you, Disney Genie. I hope it works really well. I really do.
Fingers crossed.
Remains to be seen. I don't know that I have any questions about the basic Disney Genie other than just how do I enter my preferences and what it's going to look like, but I don't really have any.
We don't have any questions right now because they haven't given us a whole lot of information
on
it. So we kind of know what it's supposed to do, but in terms of how it's going to look, they haven't said anything. So we will see.
And it looks like it's going to combine a lot of the things that My Disney experience is already doing. Like you're still going to be able to do your mobile ordering there. You're still going to be able to see wait times for show times. It looks like you're going to be able to get on virtual queues still. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. There's also another feature on there that's called Virtual Assistant. I'm not sure what that's going to do, but I'm hoping that it's going to be like questions answered and advice given in real time based on what's going on in the parks right then and there, which is really like having me and Lori and Julianne on your shoulders.
Right. If you indicated that Big Thunder Mountain's a priority to you, now's the best time of the day to ride it. Something like that would be flipping fantastic.
Right?
I'm going to guess what it is. Instead of waiting your line at guest relations at the front of each park, you're going to be able to text a guest relations team member. Anything to get them away from there, but I guess we'll see exactly what that means. But regardless, even if I can talk to anyone at Disney without having to wait in a line, I'm game.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, I want it to tell me what to ride when. That's what I want. If it does that, I will be thrilled. I'm serious.
It might.
It sounds like it kind of does. That's like from all the things I've been reading, that's what it sort of sounds like. But I think that the thing that people really, really want to know more about is Genie Plus, because Fast Pass is gone. We know this. There's no such thing as Fast Pass anymore. We're going to have to take it out of our vocabulary.
No.
Words matter. No, I refuse.
I was going to say, if anybody lives in Chicago, the Sears Tower is still the Sears Tower. They've changed the name like 3 or 4 times, but it's still the Sears Tower.
And MGM Studios is still MGM Studios.
Is it though?
It is. And Downtown Disney.
Downtown Disney.
That one does stick.
It's not not going away, but the name is still going to hold strong. I mean, I know even for the next, I mean, it's going to take years until you're going to have to stop saying fast pass, because if we say lightning lane, they'll be like, I'm sorry, what?
I know people even say fast pass at Universal. So
yes,
what are you going to do? Sorry.
That's true.
But anyway, so the new answer is Genie Plus. So Genie Plus is the available for purchase part of Disney Genie. I'm stumbling over my words because it is so complicated. Okay. So Disney Genie Plus is this paid for app that allows you to use the lightning lane entrance. So now FastPass, replace FastPass in your head with lightning lane. Okay. Then replace Genie Plus in your head, or Genie in your head with Genie Plus, because this is now, you get to, I guess, pick e-ticket attractions, right? No, that's different. I'm sorry. I'm messing it up. Help me. I'm complicated.
All right. So Genie Plus, essentially, for people that go to other theme parks, if you go to any theme park in the entire world right now, you have some type of payment system where you're going to get in a faster lane to get to the ride quicker.
Thank you.
Disney was one of the only ones that was giving it to you complimentary. So before, you would pick your 3 fast passes beforehand, before COVID, and you would get to go on these 3 rides. Over at Disneyland before COVID, there was the Max Pass system. The Max Pass system, essentially, you pre-purchased it ahead of time, and you were able, as soon as you got in the park, to activate it. And then you're able to pick 1 ride at a time based on availability. Essentially, what they did is they determined Disneyland's Max Pass was the best way to go about it. And they've renamed it to Genie Plus.
Thank you.
Yes. For Disneyland people, there's no change, guys. There's no price change. There's no nothing. The Walt Disney World Florida people will now just have to get used to what Disneyland's
Which again, the Disney World Florida people, if you recall, like 20 years ago when FastPass was first introduced to Disney World, this is essentially how you did it, but without the phones. Correct. You ran to the attraction that you wanted to get on, you put your ticket into the machine and it spat out your return time. And then when your return time was called, you returned to the attraction, rode it. And then as soon as you scanned it and were on the Fast Pass line, you could essentially go and get your next one. So it sounds like it's the same. It's we're going back in time to those days, but Max Pass is exactly.
It's exactly like Max Pass. If you've been to Disneyland, that's identical. And Max Pass, it was even $20 per day per ticket. And they're keeping Genie Plus over at Disneyland in California is going to be $20 per day per ticket. They kept the same pricing over there. Now Genie Plus over at Walt Disney World is going to be $15 per day per ticket. And people went nutso, and I am still dumbfounded on why people are so angry at this.
Well, they used to be getting it for nothing. But let's be frank. If you weren't staying on Disney property, you couldn't book your fast passes till 30 days beforehand. All the good ones were gone anyway. Yep. So really you were paying for this before by staying on property and getting 60 days out, and you only got 3 attractions.
This kind of evens the playing field.
It sort of does. And this is what people have been asking for at Disney. People have, it's not like a be careful what you wish for statement. It's just that people have been wanting more access to attractions, and this should help. So I wanted to ask that it's going to be the same as Max Pass in that you can only hold 1 at a time. You can only hold 1 queue at a time. But there was a caveat with Max Pass, and it was over in Disneyland Paris also, that you could grab one before you rode your next ride. So as long as your return time window had opened, you could get another one before you rode the ride.
And that's the part that I think that's one of the big questions I ask. They're like, well, how does this work? Do we have to wait until we get off the ride? Technically, no. It's as soon as when I was doing it in Disneyland, as soon as you scan that band, you're already in the queue. So go. So I used to, in my walk up to the queue, I was already booking my next one.
Oh, so you're saying once you scan your band at the entrance to the ride.
The band.
But at Disneyland, honestly, and the same with Disneyland Paris, you didn't have to do that. It just had to be within your window. So let's say I could ride, because, well, at Paris, they were paper fast passes. They don't have magic bands, but it was still the same. You would, let's say I had 11 to 11:30 for a return time for Remy, but I wasn't going to get there till 11:30 or even 11:35 with the wiggle room. Once 11 o'clock came, I could still go to another kiosk and get a return time for something later.
So it's not very clear in the Walt Disney World language. So that's one of the questions that I think we're waiting for clarification from Disney. And as you'll see as this podcast continues, there are a lot of questions that we're waiting for clarification from Disney. But the other the other thing to keep in mind with the distinction between, your $15 per ticket per day for Disney World and $20 per day in Disneyland. In Disneyland, much like with MaxPass, this does include your PhotoPath downloads for the day. So that's the price difference there. It does not sound like that's included with Walt Disney World. You'll still have to pay for your memory maker.
Well, it's not included in annual passes anymore. So,
well, there you go. Touche, Lori. Touche.
That's another episode.
That is a whole other episode. Yeah. Yes.
That one, there was no sun.
No. And then the other thing to make note of is that if you are deciding to the only way that you can pre-purchase your Disney Genie Plus is if you pre-purchase it for the length of your stay. And then if you don't, let's say you only want Disney Genie Plus for your Hollywood Studios day, then you would have to wait and make that purchase. You'd be able to purchase that at midnight the day that you are wanting to use it. And for length of stay, just to clarify, it would only be your ticketed days. So you don't have to purchase it for days that you don't plan to go to the theme park. So. Right.
So I have a question. Is there a benefit for Genie Plus when you're staying at a Disney World resort? Like, is that you get to purchase it at midnight, or is it this? So just Genie Plus, not the next part, not the individual attraction part. We'll talk about that in a minute.
This was part of the confusion, I think, and it's still not 100% crystal clear. But from what we read, when you're staying on a Disney property, they announced as of October 1st, you were allowed inside the parks a half an hour early, which means you would get access to booking your Lightning Lane choices a half an hour prior.
Because you're scanned
into the park. But
so your first one
should be before them. And then once we start talking about the individual attractions, I think it goes up a little bit more because then you have access at 7 a.m. to get to them. Okay. So these are the parts that's not 100% crystal clear, where I'm like, well, if you're on property, do you actually have to be inside the park, or can I activate it at my hotel and get it? Those are the parts that I don't think we're crystal clear on, but there is going to be an advantage to being on site.
I'm sure there will be.
You're getting into the park a half an hour early.
Right. So there's at least that. So by the way, listeners, we have a lot of questions, and we wanted to talk about this and talk about all of our questions. And Disney Genie Plus, they said by the 50th would be live. As of recording, it's still not. We're getting close. But Lori and I are going to be there for the 50th anniversary. So we are going to, on the projected crowdest day of the year for Walt Disney World this year, we will be there trying to use Genie Plus and seeing how that works, and we'll report back to you. So we're hoping to have answers to all of these questions. If by chance, by what is looking like a larger and larger chance every day, this Genie app is not live, then I will be back a few weeks later, and I will hopefully be able to report back to you then as well. All right, so that is Disney Genie and Genie Plus. Now, if you thought no big deal, $15, $20 per person per day to get to ride all the rides, totally nothing. Universal charges how much for these per person? This is not exactly true. Enter the individual attraction selection option. So we don't know exactly which rides will be in which category, but think e-ticket attractions if you're familiar with the olden days of Disney when they're like when they did sell individual attraction tickets, and the top ones were the e-ticket attractions. So since you're so much more eloquent than I am about this, ladies, would you like to explain the individual attraction selections?
It's hard to explain it because it's very unclear. It definitely, Disney themselves gave us a lot of examples, but nothing concrete. So for example, they said classics like Haunted Mansion, Big Thunder Mountain, Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run, those would all be accessible with your Disney Plus add-on. However, with more popular attractions, and the examples they gave were Seven Dwarfs Mine Train at the Magic Kingdom or Radiator Springs Racers at California Adventure, those would be accessible through the individual attraction selections, which would be an additional purchase, additional to your Disney Genie Plus.
Right.
Yeah.
So
those were only examples. So we still don't know like the full lists on what's on what.
The only one we do know is that Rise will be an individual attraction because Josh
Tomorrow did say that. Right.
He 100% said Rise will be in that category, which was very interesting because now they discovered the virtual queues.
Right. Well, I want to touch on that, what you just mentioned in a minute. But before we get in that, just to be very clear about what individual attraction selections are, all of the attractions on Genie Plus, not all attractions will be Genie Plus available. E-ticket attractions will only be available via standby queue. Still standby queues. They're going to go back to those for Rise of the Resistance, like Lori just mentioned, and individual attraction selections. So again, we don't know exactly which rides are going to be on this list, but we are certain about those three we just mentioned.
It sounds like, so let's harken back to the days of the Fast Pass. And so for certain theme parks, like let's use Animal Kingdom, for example, there were tiers. So tier 1 was Navi River and Flight of Passage. And then tier 2 was everything else.
Right.
It sounds like they are monetizing the tiers and they're into different categories. So I would assume that all those tier 2 rides would be still accessible through the Disney Genie Plus, and tier 1 rides would be accessible as individual attractions. That's my assumption.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, what we don't know. We don't know how much these attractions will cost. No. We don't know which ones, but we're assuming along tier 1, tier 2 lines, if you're familiar with what those were. I really want to know how much it costs. We don't know. We do know when the option to purchase becomes available to different groups of people, right? So what is it, Lori? It's resort guests have access.
So supposedly, again, it's not crystal clear with the resort guests, but it's 7 a.m. So essentially everybody was like, yay, virtual queue's gone for Rise of the Resistance. It's just replacing. You're still on your phones. We're still doing the individual attractions at 7 a.m.
Right.
We're still going to be refreshing because what they did say, which was part of this too, that got complicated, they put in big bold letters. This is limited. So there are only a certain number of individual attractions that they are going to give out.
Just like fast passes. There were
like fast passes.
But that's why it's important to know that it's either individual attraction or Genie Plus. And when this was first released, people were really confused because, like Lori mentioned, they did away with the virtual queue for Rise of the Resistance. Rise of the Resistance had the virtual queue. Everyone was trying at 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. And then we heard that with the individual attraction selections would be live at 7 a.m. And we thought, well, what do you do? Do you pay to guarantee you can ride it, or do you take a chance on the virtual queue? And how's that going to work? Well, big surprise. Last week we found out, guess what? We're going to get rid of the virtual queue for Rise of the Resistance on September 23rd. So this might be a big hint as to that's a 1 week before the anniversary, before October 1st. So perhaps we will actually see this app go live by October 1st. Because,
I hope so.
Because they're doing standby only starting September 23rd.
It's also interesting. So again, if you remember the days of the Fast Pass, and let's take Animal Kingdom as our example, Flight of Passage was notorious. If you didn't get that fast pass for Flight of Passage, you would have to wait on the standby line, and that queue could be upwards of 4 or 5 hours long. So is that going to be any different with the individual attraction thing?
Right.
I
don't think so. I think that's exactly how it's going to be. And I think that people there's a large camp of people that is okay with that. There's a lot of people that are upset that fast passes are being paid now and whatever. I certainly do have questions about more perks for resort guests, other than being at the resort, which is worth it for me. But
I'm also wondering, like, if you're paying for that perk of this individual attractions, but you don't get what you want, are you still?
I think you're not going to be able to purchase it until you get it. So
right.
You're going to go through the queue like a virtual queue, and you're going to be able to select it. And then as soon as you select it, that's when you're paying.
That's when you get charged.
So I hope that's when you're going to get charged.
But then, can you pick more than one at a time? Like, what if I'm gonna?
That was what I was just gonna say. Can we pick more than one at a time? Can we, if you you have money to spend, can we go through all of them if you have a park hopper and bounce between all of these? They already said in there that you are able to make the Genie Plus at either park. So you can park hop. So you're not stuck at one park making these. Is that the same for the individual attraction? And if so, can I just blow my money and just do all the top 3 rides in each of the parks?
But there will have to be strategy to selecting them, right? Like,
this is going to be a huge learning curve. Yeah. And I think what part of the big confusion is, and I'm going to read this directly from Disney, because when they announced this, they said, and I quote, "Attractions continue to offer a traditional standby queue or a virtual queue at certain attractions like Star Wars Rise of the Resistance to maximize flexibility."
So I think that's going to be, if I may, my projection or my opinion. You know how at Universal with Hagrid's, they use the virtual queue when the park is crowded. So I think that's a brilliant strategy, right? So I think 7 a.m., they're going to sell out within 30 seconds of individual attraction passes. The park opens, people go. If the park's crowded, they start the virtual queue, but you have no idea when they're going to do it, right? Just like at Universal, we had no idea they weren't doing the virtual queue when we tried to ride Hagrid's motorbike.
Well, and that's interesting that you say that, because the last couple of weeks, last week on our podcast, we talked about the slow season, and we talked about how this unprecedented thing has been happening lately, where the crowds are so low in the parks that people have noticed that midday, randomly, you could all of a sudden grab a virtual queue spot for Rise of the Resistance because they just decided to open it up to more people because it was slow. So we know that Disney monitors in real time. They did it with fast passes. They've always done it. So, I kind of love the flexibility and stuff and the options. It'll be interesting to see how they use all 3 of these things.
I was going to say, they did put in their wording that they are pausing the virtual queue for Rise. It was a pause. It was not a gone. So they very well might be setting themselves up to get used to this new Genie Plus, get used to these individual attractions, take away the virtual queue that hangs everybody up at 7 a.m. when you're already going to have everyone and their mom at 7 a.m. trying to get these individual attractions. And I think they might just be pausing it to work out the kinks.
Well, and
there's going to be kinks.
And quite possibly they're doing this to gather some data, because there has never been a standby queue for Rise of the Resistance ever in its history. So maybe they need a little bit of data about how long is the wait going to be. And
what a crazy weekend to be gathering data, though.
Well, no, not if they do it this week, because I don't think the crowds will really be coming until the end of next week.
I was going to say, come about the 28th, those crowds are going back up. So
I'm super curious. So on our anniversary trip, we're not going out. Mine and Lori's anniversary trip, the 50th anniversary trip, we're not doing Hollywood Studios. But so I have to say, speaking of people who have mixed emotions about the way this was working, I am driving down to.
We might try to get over there. We'll see what happens. If we can snag an individual Juliana's still never been on Rise.
I've still never been on Rise. So in addition to that, I have so many thoughts going through my head about not having ever been on Rise and the anger that it brings to my heart. But anyway, so in addition to our anniversary trip, where we're probably not going to go on Rise once again, I am going down with my family 2 weeks later, like I said. So it's just a quick weekend trip. We were just planning on going to Animal Kingdom and Epcot for this one. And my husband said to me, I am not going all the way to Walt Disney World and not riding Rise of the Resistance. Make it happen. And I was like, oh, okay. So,
is he your most difficult client?
Oh, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. And I have to please him because if he's not having fun, then I don't get to go back. So it's a personal thing.
Yep.
Anyway, so I was like, all right, so here's what's going to happen. We're going to drive down that day. We'll get park reservations for Hollywood Studios. We're not going to be able to rope drop because it's our travel day, but I'll add it on to the trip and we'll get while we're in the car at 7 a.m. I'm going to get that boarding group this time. I'm going to get it. And then they're like, we're doing away with boarding groups as of September 23rd. And I was like, no, because I'm really concerned that they're not going to have this next option set up by October 15th. And in which case it's a total waste for me because there is no way I can rope drop that morning. According to my husband, though, we will get another night's hotel and we will rope drop. And he said, make it happen. And then I explained to him about the individual attraction thing and how that works. And I was like, now you're going to have to pay. If it's out, you're going to have to pay. And if it's not out, you're going to have to pay for an extra night's hotel. And he said, I want to be guaranteed to get on that ride. So I think there are people in his camp who are like, I don't care. I can be guaranteed on it. It's fine. So
there are. And that's, I think, the most interesting part about the individual attractions is Disney better be prepared that these are going to sell out. Disney people are crazy. And I understand there are people that want it valued, but there are people that are nuts. So
right.
And they will drop the money.
Well, what I want to tell Andy, though, like, even if you're willing to drop the money, though, it's not guaranteed. Yeah. Like, what happens if we don't get one? So do I need to plan to rope drop and try to get it?
Here's my question, too. What then about Disney's VIP tours? Is this just, they don't need anything?
No.
Well, for that price, they shouldn't.
Well, but yes. However, as it stands today, for that price, Rise is not on the menu.
Yes,
it recently.
I think they just
went on, and Remy just went on.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I think
maybe that's.
They had to. And for anybody that wants to know, VIP is running $850 per hour on a 7-hour minimum
of 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Up to 10 people. Though. In October. They expect high crowds in October.
They expect high crowds. Pricing. So at that price, you better include Rise the Resistance and
right. Well, not like at that price, I don't want to look at my phone. I have a human My Disney Experience, I'm sorry, Genie app in front of me for $850 an hour. Like, I'm not playing with trying to get a Rise anything at 7 a.m.
I would say the VIP is like Robin Williams Genie plus. Like, that is like the top tier of Genie with them. It's not just, yes. Anyways, yes.
I mean, if that could happen, I'd pay twice that for Robin Williams, but I'm not sure that's the kind of magic Disney's into.
It'd be a little morbid and creepy, but
yes. But yeah, okay. So overview, you have Genie, Disney's Genie, which is more of an extension to My Disney Experience. We have Genie Plus, which will have a menu of rides that it will include. And then we have individual attractions that will have the other rides that are not included in Genie Plus.
Which give you access to Lightning Lane.
Lightning Lane.
So it's a lot. I don't know why the queue had to have a name.
Why can't the queue just stay Fast Pass and just change the rest of it?
Just say skip the line. Like, whatever.
Just do Fast Pass Lane. That's what everyone knows. Why change it to Lightning Lane? And I'm like, Lightning Lane's just a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. We have a lot of opinions over here, but I don't know. So, but like overall though, what do you think? Like, are you in the camp of, I don't mind paying for e-ticket attractions because it guarantees?
I think we've been saying this since we went to Universal. I think they handle their Express Pass so well. And I'm disappointed that it wasn't a feature that was automatically included with your deluxe resort and deluxe villa resort package, because I love that feature from Universal. Universal Studios includes their, Fast Pass, which they call it Express Pass, when you stay in a deluxe resort. And I think that's a perk. I don't mind. Obviously, we're deluxe resort people anyway, so that's where we're staying anyway. So of course, I would have wanted that to be included. But
so since the Bobs are listening, just to clarify, you would want Genie Plus to be included or individual attraction selection?
I would want
Genie
Disney
Plus.
Yeah, Disney Genie Plus to be included.
I would say, did I say Disney Plus?
I might have also. And I don't mind having
the names.
The names. So especially where words really are so important to Disney.
Yeah.
We say that over and over. They make it very confusing. Okay, so I agree with you. I think Genie Plus should be part of maybe a high tier resort stay. And I also think that you should have earlier access to purchase your individual attraction selections.
But purchase them, indeed. I absolutely will pay for it.
I'll still pay for it. But I just want to have earlier access, just like I had earlier access to Fast Passes. That's my one beef, particularly because of the scenario I just laid out for you. I don't know if I need to be there to rope drop because the individual attraction selection passes are going to sell out before I get one on the day that I'm trying to do it. So I need to be prepared to rope drop on my travel day. I want to know ahead of time.
Yeah, there's a lot that needs to be figured out. We need to see how quick the individual attractions go first and exactly when on-site guests get access to it. And to Jen's point, I think they should have included it with the deluxe. I understand because Universal has 3 deluxes and Disney has a ton. And does that include DVC members? Does that not include DVC members? Yeah. And though that got a little, it's a little complicated there. And then if they were to throw it and be like monorail resorts only, now you're like the monorail resorts are going to be chock block and no one else is going to be able to stay there. So I think it was a little bit more complicated for them. I'm wondering if, that's the thing. It's only $15 per day per ticket. I don't know.
It wouldn't have killed them to include it with the Disney. That's a hefty price difference to stay in a value versus a deluxe.
I just think they got a lot of deluxes. So that's how much then you have so many more people that are in those lines. And is that really a fast pass or a lightning lane?
They could just wrap it into that. They could just wrap it into that resort price. Would you notice a $15 a day increase in your room at the Poly?
No, but I think what she's saying is that then would those lightning lanes really be faster if you are automatically including that number, that volume of people who are staying in those deluxe resorts in automatically in that program?
Yeah, right. If you think about it, the category that's the largest at Disney is deluxe.
Right. But to your point, I don't think that, I guess that might be true. However, I don't think that the price of adding the Disney Genie Plus to any package is a deterrent to getting it.
No.
They did not, it's not like it's $100 per person per day. It's $15.
Right.
It's not, I think 90% of people who are going to Disney are still going to be paying for that upgrade. So then
2 Starbucks drinks per day.
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying.
2 Starbucks drinks per day. For 4 days.
Absolutely. Absolutely what I'm saying. So I think that 90% of the people in general who are staying on property are going to be getting this. So why does it matter? I think 100% of people, if you have the money to stay in a deluxe resort, you're not going to be put off by $15 a day per person. So I think 100% of those people are going to be getting it anyway. So just give it to me for free.
And that's why they need the money.
I'm not sure I follow your logic on that. If you're going to buy it anyway, you should give it to me for free.
I didn't say it was logical. I read this from another site and I don't remember what, but they explained Fast Pass was like getting a dining reservation where you got your Fast Pass and it was an actual time that you could return to the attraction. But Disney Genie Plus is more like adding your name to a wait list. Yeah. So you were just getting the next available ride time. So what does that mean then? I think that's where the Disney Genie is going to be key. Because if you're all the way by Space Mountain and you put in your Disney Genie Plus to go to Thunder Mountain and it becomes available, I guess the Disney Genie will modify your plans because now you're going to be on that side of the park. So it'll tell you what to do over there that has like, okay, now, Pirates has a really low wait time. So go over there now because you're not far.
But then you also want to know what has a really long wait time. So you can put it into Disney Genie Plus. Right. Is that what you were going to say, Lori?
No, I was going to say, just expect to be walking more. I noticed in Disneyland, even though it was much smaller, you walked more because instead of, I'd even set my fast passes up. I'd be like, all right, Space Mountain first. We're going to head right when we got into the castle. And then we're going to go back towards Frontier. And I'm going to put those two next to each other because that's back there. Where this, you literally, the smartest way to do it when it was before is to just grab the next time. And whether you're walking clear across the park, it doesn't matter. If it's a popular ride, then you need to go to the next time to get the next one after that.
So in the morning, when you get to Magic Kingdom a half an hour early, or maybe they'll even let you in 45 minutes early, and I have Genie Plus, do I hold off on picking something and just use all the low wait times in the morning?
I say pick something, just pick it at 9 a.m. or 8:30. So you still grab it.
But what if you don't have control? It's not like Fast Pass. I can't, because with Fast Pass, I could not start any of my Fast Passes till 11 if I wanted to use that strategy.
You still have control in terms of if it's like Disneyland, when I picked them, you pick the ride and it would show the next couple of availability times up on that screen. So that's at least how it was at Max Pass. So if it's like that, then you're able to pick the next available time. So just like if you're going to lunch and you're like, hey, we're going to eat lunch at noon, so I'm not going to grab the next one till 1:15. Mm-hmm. So you're able to grab that time.
I would imagine it would be very similar. Why would they reinvent the wheel on that programming, right?
I hope not, because there's going to be enough issues.
That's interesting. But I like that, because that was one of my questions is what do I do when I'm a rope dropper? I fully believe in it. That's the part that's the part you're going to need a travel agent for, because there is going to be, as much as they want you to be flexible, there is going to be kind of a game plan to this. Right.
And we're going to be able to tell you, listen, if you're there at rope drop, ignore that. Get the first one you can at 9:15, and then just go hit rides till 9:15. And then you have that one, and then you can keep moving on.
We might even tell you which ones to hit too.
Exactly.
But that's for clients only. So book with us. Just a little paid for advertising in there.
I think that's a good segue to our Mouska tip.
Indeed.
Yes. All right. Keep your eye on the Mouska Moms. Information and details regarding the Disney Genie will be released any day. Mouska Moms pride ourselves on delivering timely information on all breaking news out of Disney. So if you don't already, be sure to follow us on Instagram at @MouskaMoms_podcast and on Facebook at Disney Planning and Chat by Mouska Moms for all the latest information. Because trust me, we will know right away.
And we'll be honest about our
And we will have opinions right away.
We'll tell you.
Opinions? What?
Yeah.
Us?
We're just going to tell it like it is.
Always. Well, thank you for spending another fun episode with us. If you've enjoyed this crazy podcast with all of our segues, please be sure to subscribe to our show so that you receive notifications for when new content is released and you never miss an episode. And please consider writing us a review on Apple Podcasts as well. Thanks.